Shreveport carried a heavy winter silence that seemed to settle over every corner of the city as Black Friday approached. The streetlights glowed against the chill, and the skies felt muted, as if they too were holding their breath. A cold breeze slid through the tall pine trees around the Carter home, brushing against the windows of a place that looked peaceful from the outside but held storms behind its walls. Inside that house lived Mariah Carter, a woman known by her family for her intelligence, her foresight, and her loyalty, even when life demanded far more from her than she ever received in return. Mariah had sharp eyes that took in everything. Her co-workers admired her leadership, her thoughtful manner, and her discipline. Her mother often told people that Mariah had been born with a mind that could run a household and a business at the same time. Yet her confidence had been slowly chipped away by her husband, Malcolm Carter, whose presence filled every room with an energy that made the walls seem thinner. Malcolm was charming to outsiders, always full of jokes and prideful laughter. But when the front door closed, his tone changed. Mariah had learned to measure each of her movements, each decision, each step outside the house. On the evening before Black Friday, Mariah sat at her desk in her home office, sorting through finances. She had done well at her firm, rising faster than many of her colleagues, and she brought home most of their income. Still, she felt like a visitor in her own life. Malcolm rarely let her make decisions about their spending, claiming that a man had to handle finances if the house was going to run the right way. She never believed that idea, yet she avoided arguing when his voice grew sharp. She simply saved what she could, kept her account private, and waited for quiet moments of peace. As she studied their budget, she saw that she had extra money set aside for necessary items. The towels in the house were thinning, the pots had scratched surfaces, and their bedding was old. She wanted to replace them. Target was having several Black Friday sales, and the prices were far lower than they would be again for months. She made a list, careful and exact. She planned to wake early and return before Malcolm fully noticed she had gone. That night, she moved softly in the house. Malcolm was watching television, his face lit by the flickering screen. Mariah informed him gently, in a calm voice, that she planned to leave early in the morning to take advantage of some sales. Malcolm turned his head slightly, his expression unreadable. He did not respond immediately. She saw the tension in his jaw and knew that pushing the conversation would be a mistake. Instead, she stepped away and prepared for bed. She tried to sleep, but her mind would not settle. The next morning, before the sun rose, Mariah slipped out of the house. The air was cold enough to bite at her fingertips, but the sense of brief freedom warmed her chest. She drove through the quiet neighborhoods toward the bright red Target sign that glowed like a beacon in the early dawn. Cars had already gathered, and people stood bundled in coats and scarves, waiting for the automatic doors to open. When Mariah stepped into the store, she felt a strange lightness. She moved through aisles quickly, picking up towels, sheets, bathroom supplies, kitchen tools, and small organizational items she had needed for months. She kept her list neat and made sure she stayed within her budget. The cart filled steadily, but she did not fear the cost. She was careful with her money, and she knew she could afford this simple comfort. She paid at the register and walked through the sliding doors with her purchases and a fragile sense of peace. The sky was still gray, but she felt a brightness within herself. She loaded the trunk, closed it gently, and drove home. The moment she parked, dread returned. Malcolm stood in the doorway of the house, his stare heavy and dark. She carried the bags toward the house, but his voice sliced through the cold air. "Mariah, where did you go? I woke up and you were gone." His tone was not loud, but it carried a dangerous edge. Mariah steadied her breathing. "I told you yesterday, Malcolm. I went to Target to get the household items we needed." He stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. "You did not ask me. You did not tell me what time. You just left. You think you can do whatever you want." Mariah felt her heartbeat climb into her throat. She tried to remain calm. Malcolm, I am buying things for our home. I used my own money. You know these are basic things we have needed. Malcolm scoffed and moved closer. And you could not wait for me? You could not check with me? You make big decisions like this on your own now? She tried to respond, but he silenced her with a hand raised in anger. Enough, Mariah. I am tired of you acting like you run things around here. He slapped her across the face before she could take another breath. Her vision blurred, and the bags fell from her hands. She felt the sting spread across her cheek, her eyes burning with tears she fought to contain. She stepped back, trembling, and turned away from him. Without a word, she ran into the house, down the hall, and into her office. She closed the door and collapsed into her chair, shaking as tears streamed down her face. Her office felt small, but it was the only space where she could breathe. The tears came in waves, each one carrying years of fear and frustration. She pressed her palm against her cheek, feeling the warmth of the bruise forming. She felt suffocated, trapped, yet she stayed silent, afraid to make Malcolm angrier. She whispered to herself, "He cannot keep doing this. He cannot." She cried until her body grew weak, resting her forehead against her desk. She wished for strength, for a moment of clarity, for someone who could help her see a way out of the life she had become chained to. But she did not yet know that this moment of pain would become the first step toward her escape. Mariah stayed in her office for nearly an hour, her breath shaky, her chest rising and falling in an uneven rhythm. She kept the lights dim, letting only the faint glow from her computer screen fill the room. The walls felt like they were closing in on her, pressing against her ribs as her heartbeat refused to slow. She knew this was not the first time Malcolm had put his hands on her, and she feared it would not be the last. Yet something about this moment felt different, heavier, like a line had been crossed in a way that she could not ignore. She stared at her reflection in the darkened monitor, the faint imprint of Malcolm's hand on her cheek beginning to show. Her tears blurred her vision again. She pulled her phone from her pocket with trembling fingers. She needed to talk to someone. She needed to talk to someone who would not dismiss her pain, someone who would not tell her that she should simply try to be more patient or more agreeable. She needed the one person who always treated her pain as real. She texted her cousin, Janelle Parker. "Janelle, I need you. I need to talk, please." Janelle responded quickly, "I am coming over. Do not open the door for Malcolm. Stay in your office until I get there." Mariah let out a shaky breath and tucked her phone close to her chest. She felt a fragile sense of safety knowing that Janelle was on her way. Janelle had always been the fierce one in their family, the one who did not fear confrontation. She had a presence that demanded respect, and she never let anyone mistreat the people she loved. Meanwhile, Malcolm moved through the house with heavy, irritated steps. She could hear drawers slamming and the sharp thud of his footsteps as he paced from room to room. He muttered to himself, growing more agitated the longer Mariah stayed out of sight. Mariah heard him call out her name. "Mariah, come out here. I know you hear me." She stayed silent, pressing her hand over her mouth. She refused to give him the satisfaction of a response. She heard him exhale in frustration and eventually walk away. After what felt like an eternity, she heard a soft knock at the front door. Malcolm must have gone upstairs because she did not hear him approach. Mariah stood, wiping her face quickly, and cracked her office door open to listen. Janelle's voice carried through the hallway. "Mariah, it is me. Open the door." Mariah hurried down the hallway and opened the front door just enough for Janelle to slip inside. Janelle took one look at her face and froze. Her eyes filled with fury, her jaw clenching. "He hit you again." Mariah could only nod. Her throat felt tight, and her voice refused to come out. Janelle reached for her gently, pulling her into a deep embrace, careful not to touch the bruised side of her face. "You are leaving him," Janelle said firmly. "Today. Right now." Mariah pulled back, tears welling again. "Janelle, I cannot. He watches everything. He checks my spending. He knows where I go. He gets angry over the smallest things." I am scared. Janelle shook her head. You should be scared of staying, not leaving. If he hit you again, he will do worse. You know this. Mariah looked down at her hands. The weight of Janelle's words was heavy, but she knew they were true. She had spent years making excuses for Malcolm, believing that he was simply stressed or misunderstood. She told herself that maybe if she worked harder, or stayed quieter, or adjusted her behavior, he would treat her with more kindness. But every time she tried, he found new reasons to tear her down. Janelle stepped closer and gently lifted Mariah's chin so that she could see her eyes. Listen to me. You are not weak. You carry this entire household. You bring in most of the money. You have kept everything together while he has broken you down. But you do not have to carry him anymore. Mariah felt something break inside her. A small piece of courage flickered to life. It was faint, but it was real. She took a slow breath and nodded. Janelle lowered her voice. I need you to do something. I need you to start documenting everything. Every mark, every bruise, every instance of what he has done. Take pictures. Write down dates. Keep screenshots of messages. We are going to build a wall of truth strong enough that he cannot knock it down. Mariah whispered, I have been doing that. I started months ago. I was just too scared to use it. Janelle's eyes widened with pride. Then you have already taken the first step. You are ready. You just need to decide when. A sudden heavy footstep sounded from the top of the stairs. Malcolm's voice thundered from above. Who is here, Mariah? Janelle stepped forward, her expression fierce. Good. Let him come. Mariah felt her pulse spike, but Janelle held her ground. Malcolm descended the stairs quickly, his expression dark and irritated. When he saw Janelle, he stopped abruptly. Why are you here, Janelle? Janelle stared at him without flinching. I am here because Mariah is not safe with you, and she does not need your permission to have family in her home. Malcolm's jaw tightened. This is my house. I decide who comes in and out. Janelle smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You might believe that, but the law will see things differently, especially when they hear what you did this morning. Malcolm's eyes flickered toward Mariah's cheek. He clenched his fists, anger flashing through him, but he did not move closer. Not with Janelle standing there. Mariah stepped slightly behind her cousin, her voice barely a whisper. Janelle, maybe we should go talk in my office. Janelle nodded and brushed past Malcolm without acknowledging him further. They walked down the hallway, closed the office door, and both took deep breaths. Mariah finally spoke, her voice trembling. I want to leave him. I want my life back. But I need help. Janelle reached for her hand. You will have all the help you need, but you must be ready for a fight. Men like Malcolm do not let go easy. Mariah stared at the wall, feeling strength gather inside her. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope. A spark strong enough to change everything. Mariah sat across from Janelle in the quiet safety of her office, the faint hum of her computer filling the silence between them. Janelle watched her closely, waiting for her to speak, waiting for her to take the next step toward her freedom. Mariah wiped her eyes and steadied herself. She felt raw and exposed, but she also felt the smallest seed of resolve beginning to grow. I cannot keep living like this, Mariah said softly. Every day I wake up wondering what version of Malcolm I will get. Will he be calm, or will he be waiting for a reason to snap? I feel like I am suffocating in my own house. Janelle nodded. I know. And he does that on purpose. Men like him want you to doubt yourself. They want you to believe you cannot live without them. But you can. You already have the tools. You have your career. You have your money. You have evidence. You just need a plan. Mariah pressed her fingertips together. Her hands trembled, but her voice began to steady. What if he tries to follow me? What if he tries to take the house or the cars? He knows everything about me. He knows where I work. He knows my routine. And that is why we prepare, Janelle replied firmly. We will not rush. We will gather everything he does not want you to have. We will protect you. I will not let you walk through this alone. Mariah breathed slowly, letting the warmth of that reassurance settle into her bones. From the hallway came the muffled sound of Malcolm pacing again. His footsteps were sharp, like he was marking the territory he believed he owned. Mariah flinched, but Janelle placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. Ignore him. He can stomp around all he wants, but he does not control you in here. Mariah felt a tremor of courage rise again. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out a small, locked box. From inside, she retrieved a folder filled with printed photographs, dated notes, and screenshots. Janelle's eyes widened as she flipped through the contents. Mariah, this is detailed. You have timestamps, injury descriptions, even messages where he blames you for his behavior. Mariah nodded quietly. I kept everything. I wanted proof just in case I ever found the strength to do something about it. I took pictures every time he hurt me. I wrote down what he said after. I saved every message where he yelled at me or threatened me. Janelle exhaled slowly. This is enough to fight him in court. More than enough. Mariah looked at the folder, her heart pounding. I never thought I would actually use it. I thought maybe I was being dramatic. Or maybe he would change. I kept hoping that if I worked harder or stayed quieter, he would calm down. But he never does. He will not change, Janelle said firmly. And you have already fought alone for too long. A sudden loud knock hit the office door. Mariah jumped. Malcolm's voice thundered on the other side. Mariah, open this door, now! Mariah stood frozen. She felt her throat tighten, her lungs shrink. Janelle stepped in front of her again. You are not opening that door, she whispered fiercely. Malcolm slammed his fist against the door again. I know Janelle is in there. I want her out of my house, and I want you to explain why you think you can run off without telling me. You keep disrespecting me, and I will not tolerate it. Janelle's voice rose just enough to ensure he heard her. Malcolm, you need to step away from this door. You will not threaten her while I am here. Malcolm let out a bitter laugh. You think you can come into my house and tell me what to do. You think Mariah needs you. She needs to learn her place. She has been getting out of hand. Mariah felt her stomach twist. Hearing those words again, spoken with such disdain, made her legs weaken. She felt like a child being scolded, but she forced herself to straighten her spine. Janelle shook her head, her expression cold. No, Malcolm. She has been patient. She has been forgiving. She has stayed with you through every outburst. But she does not owe you control over her life. Silence hung in the air for a moment. Then Malcolm spat out a low, angry reply. She is my wife. I can handle her however I see fit. Mariah felt something inside her break. Not with fear, but with clarity. That sentence, spoken with such arrogance and entitlement, made her decision settle into place like a stone. She stepped closer to the door, her voice trembling but steady enough to reach through it. Malcolm, you do not own me, and you do not get to decide what I do or where I go. There was a long pause. His voice came back colder than she had ever heard it. So now you think you are brave. Mariah took a breath. I think I am done being afraid of you. Janelle placed a hand on her back in silent support. Malcolm remained silent for a long moment before his footsteps retreated down the hallway. A door slammed violently somewhere in the house. Mariah sagged into her chair, exhaling shakily. Janelle leaned down to look her in the eyes. That was the strongest thing you have ever done. You spoke to him like someone who has decided to take her life back. Mariah swallowed hard. I think I am ready to leave. Not tomorrow. Not eventually. I am ready now. Janelle nodded. Then we begin today. We gather your important documents, your work information, your personal items. You pack a bag you can hide until the moment you leave. Mariah looked at her bruised cheek reflected faintly in the computer screen. She touched it gently, then lowered her hand. I want out. I want my freedom. I want the life he tried to take from me. Janelle smiled faintly. And you will get all of it back, step by step. Mariah breathed deeply, feeling the birth of a new determination, one built from years of pain and held together by growing strength. Her escape had already begun. Mariah waited until Malcolm stormed outside, his heavy boots scraping angrily across the driveway, before stepping out of her office. Her body still felt fragile, but her mind had become sharper, clearer. Janelle followed her with cautious steps, watching for any sign that Malcolm might come back inside. The house felt tense, as if the air itself was aware that something was shifting, something that could not be undone. Mariah took a slow breath. I need to gather my birth certificate, my passport, my financial documents, my work files. There are things he does not even know I have. Janelle nodded. Good. We start with what matters most. The things you will need once you walk out of here. Mariah moved through the hallway, checking quietly before entering her bedroom. The room was filled with Malcolm's presence, from his cologne bottle on the dresser to the clothing he left scattered across the floor. She felt her heartbeat increase, her palms grow damp, but she forced herself to keep moving. She knelt beside the dresser and retrieved a small lockbox hidden behind stacks of folded shirts. She used a tiny key she kept tucked inside her wallet to open it. Inside were several personal documents Malcolm had never bothered to look for: her passport, social security card, several old savings statements from before they married, a backup copy of her work identification. She placed them carefully into a folder. As she worked, Janelle stood guard at the door, arms crossed, eyes alert. I cannot believe you have been carrying all of this alone, Janelle murmured. You should have never had to. Mariah closed the lockbox. I did not want anyone to worry. I thought maybe I could handle it. But he kept taking more and more. He controlled how much gas I used each week. He questioned every receipt. He even counted my hours at work because he said he needed to track how long I was away. Janelle shook her head with clear disgust. That is not a marriage. That is imprisonment. Mariah felt her throat tighten. Part of her wanted to sit down and dissolve into tears again, but she fought the urge. She could cry later. She could crumble later. Right now, she needed to stay focused. Once they collected the documents, Mariah moved to the bathroom and quietly gathered some of her personal items. Janelle helped her pack them into a small duffel bag. They hid the bag in her office closet, behind boxes of paperwork. Mariah would have to retrieve it quickly when the moment came. As they finished packing, Malcolm re-entered the house. His steps were slower now, but charged with cold anger. Mariah froze in place. Janelle put a reassuring hand on her arm, silently telling her not to be afraid. Malcolm walked down the hallway until he stood at the doorway of the office. His stare was sharp, unblinking. So this is how it is now. You hide in here plotting with your cousin, instead of coming to talk to your husband like a real woman. Mariah's hands tightened at her sides. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Janelle stepped forward slightly, but Mariah raised a hand, signaling her to wait. Something inside Mariah had settled, grounding her in a way she had never experienced before. Malcolm, I am not your prisoner, she said, her voice trembling but steady enough to cut through the tension. I do not have to report every move I make. I went to buy necessities for our home. There was nothing wrong with that. Malcolm's expression hardened. You disrespected me. You went out without asking me. You spent money without my approval. That is not how a marriage works. Mariah felt anger rise in her chest, sharp and burning. A marriage is built on trust and respect, not fear, not control, not intimidation. Malcolm stepped farther into the room, his jaw tight. You must think you are brave today. You think because Janelle is here that you can speak to me any kind of way, but she is not here all the time, and I will not let you make a fool out of me in my own house. Janelle's voice rose like a blade slicing through the moment. She is not making a fool out of you. You are doing that yourself. You hit her. You threaten her. You control everything she does. And you think that is strength. It is not. It is weakness. Malcolm glared at her. You are interfering in something you know nothing about. This is between me and my wife. Mariah's voice rose, surprising even herself. And I am telling you that I am tired. I am tired of being scared. I am tired of feeling worthless. I am tired of shrinking myself so that you will not explode. I cannot do it anymore. Malcolm took a slow step toward her, eyes blazing. You cannot walk away from me. Mariah stepped back, but did not look away. I can. And I will. A long moment passed. Malcolm's chest rose and fell heavily. He clenched his fists, but he did not strike her this time. Instead, he stormed out, slamming the front door so hard that one of the picture frames rattled on the wall. Mariah exhaled shakily. Her knees felt weak, and she sank into her office chair. Janelle knelt beside her. That was powerful, Mariah. You spoke with a strength that he has never heard before. He is losing control over you, and that terrifies him. Mariah rubbed her hands together, trying to calm the tremor in her fingers. I still feel afraid, but I also feel something else. Relief. Maybe even hope. Janelle smiled gently. That is because you are finally stepping into your own life. Mariah looked at the folder filled with evidence, every page heavy with memories she wished she could erase. But now those memories had a purpose. They were her shield, her proof, her voice when fear tried to silence her. Janelle leaned forward. We need to set a date. A real date. You cannot wait forever. The longer you stay, the more danger you face. Mariah inhaled deeply. I want to leave within the next few days. I have plenty of vacation time at work. I can stay with you until everything is handled. Janelle nodded. Good. We can contact an attorney. We can file for protection. We can take every legal step available. Mariah felt the weight of the next chapter settling over her, heavy but manageable. For the first time in years, she felt the ground beneath her feet. She was no longer hoping for freedom. She was preparing to take it. The next 2 days moved slowly, each hour stretching with tension and quiet planning. Mariah remained careful, speaking little to Malcolm and staying mostly in her office when she was home. Malcolm watched her more closely than usual, his eyes following her every movement. He sensed change. He sensed rebellion. He sensed that the grip he had on her was slipping, and it made him volatile. On Monday morning, Mariah left for work earlier than usual, her nerves tight, but her focus unwavering. Janelle met her at her office downtown, bringing coffee and a quiet strength that Mariah leaned into. They met with an attorney Janelle trusted, a woman named Attorney Vanessa Holmes, whose tone was calm yet powerful. She listened as Mariah recounted everything, even the parts she had never spoken aloud to anyone before. Attorney Holmes reviewed the folder of evidence, flipping through each page slowly, her face unreadable. When she finally looked up, she spoke with absolute certainty. Mariah, this is more than enough. You have documented years of physical and emotional abuse. You have timestamps, photos, and written recollections. The court will take this very seriously. With this evidence, you can file for divorce, request temporary protection, and secure your share of assets. Considering the severity, you could be granted even more. Mariah felt heat rise in her chest, a mixture of fear and empowerment. I want to do it. I want to file. Attorney Holmes nodded. We will begin immediately. But you should not return to that house alone. Once this process starts, Malcolm may become unpredictable. Abusive partners often escalate when they feel their control slipping. Janelle responded with fierce confidence. She will stay with me. She will not spend another night under his roof. Mariah exhaled, grateful. She had felt alone for so long that support felt almost unfamiliar. She nodded. Yes, I will stay with Janelle. After the paperwork was drafted and reviewed, Mariah signed everything with trembling but determined hands. Each signature felt like a chain snapping open, one link at a time. Attorney Holmes would file the documents that afternoon. When Mariah returned home to gather more of her belongings, the sun had begun to set. Malcolm sat in the living room, arms crossed, jaw tight. The television flickered, but he was not watching it. He was waiting for her. "Where were you all day, Mariah? You did not answer my calls." Mariah set her purse down slowly. "I was at work. I had meetings. I was busy. Do not lie to me. You never take this long to respond. I know you were with someone. I know you are hiding something." Mariah felt her heart slam against her ribs. Janelle stepped into the room behind her, carrying one of Mariah's bags. Malcolm's eyes darted toward her and narrowed. "Why is she here again? What are you two up to?" Janelle spoke before Mariah could. "She is packing her things. She is leaving with me." Malcolm laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Leave. She is not going anywhere." Mariah held her ground. "Yes, I am. I am staying with family for a while." Malcolm stood, his glare sharp. "You think you can run away from this marriage? You think you can walk out and expect me to just accept it?" Mariah swallowed hard, but kept her voice as steady as she could. "I am not asking you to accept anything. I am telling you that I need space. I need time away from this house." Malcolm stepped closer, his anger rising. "You have been different these past few days. Sneaking around, whispering. You think I do not see it. You think I do not know what you are planning." Janelle moved between them. "She is planning to save herself, something you never cared to do for her." Malcolm's face twisted with hostility. "You keep inserting yourself where you do not belong, Janelle. You are tearing this marriage apart." Mariah felt words burst from her chest before she could stop them. "You tore it apart. Every time you put your hands on me. Every time you yelled at me for nothing. Every time you made me feel like I was your property and not your partner. You destroyed this, Malcolm, not me." Malcolm froze. His expression darkened with an emotion Mariah had seen too many times. She braced herself instinctively, but Janelle held firm, blocking him from coming any closer. Malcolm's voice dropped to a threatening growl. "Do you really think you can leave me and take anything from this house? Everything in here belongs to me. This marriage belongs to me. You do not get to walk out and pretend you are a victim." Mariah raised her chin, her voice gaining strength. "I do not have to pretend. I have proof. I have every bruise, every mark, every message. I documented everything you ever did to me, and I will use it." Malcolm's breath hitched, his confidence wavering for the first time. He looked at her with a mixture of shock and fury. "You would do that to me?" Mariah felt tears form, but did not let them fall. "Yes, because you left me no choice. You crossed too many lines. You broke too many promises." Silence stretched tight around them. Malcolm looked at Janelle, then at the bag in her hand, and then at Mariah again. His body trembled with suppressed rage. For a moment, Mariah worried he might lash out despite Janelle's presence. But after a long, tense breath, he stepped back. "Fine. Go then. But do not expect anything from me when you come crawling back." Mariah felt something painful twist in her chest. Not because his words hurt, but because she realized they no longer controlled her. She turned away from him. "I will not be crawling back." Janelle took her hand, gripping it firmly. "Come on. We are leaving now." Mariah walked out of the house she had once loved deeply, the house she had spent years maintaining, cleaning, decorating, and nurturing. The house where she had cried countless times and hid her pain behind closed doors. She stepped into the cold air, and it felt like her first breath in years. As they drove away, Mariah stared back at the shrinking silhouette of the home she had built with Malcolm. Her heart hurt, but she felt something new rising within her. Possibility. That night at Janelle's home, she sat in the guest bedroom, hands folded in her lap, thinking about everything she had lost and everything she was about to gain. Tomorrow, Attorney Holmes would file the papers. Tomorrow, Malcolm would receive the reality he thought he could control. Tomorrow, Mariah would begin the life she had fought silently for. And for the first time, she believed she truly deserved it. The next days moved forward like a storm rolling over the city of Shreveport. Attorney Holmes filed every document with precision, gathering statements, medical notes Mariah had never sent in before, and the extensive evidence Mariah had kept hidden for years. Each item was submitted to the court, every photograph speaking louder than her quiet voice ever had. Malcolm reacted exactly as Attorney Holmes predicted. The moment he received the divorce petition and the notice of protective measures, he unleashed a flurry of angry messages, long paragraphs accusing her of betrayal, harsh sentences demanding her return, threats disguised as apologies, pleas laced with blame. Mariah did not respond. She blocked his number and changed her password on every account. She stayed close to Janelle, who kept a constant watchful eye, refusing to let Mariah face any moment alone that could weaken her resolve. When the court hearing date arrived, Mariah felt her knees weaken as she stood outside the courthouse. The massive pillars seemed colder than the winter air, the stone steps heavy beneath her feet. Janelle stood beside her in full support, her hand resting firmly on Mariah's back. "You have survived worse than this," Janelle whispered. "This is the moment you reclaim everything he tried to take from you." Mariah nodded, her breath shaking. She did not feel brave, but she felt determined, and that was enough to keep her walking through the courthouse doors. Inside the hearing room, Malcolm sat near his attorney, his jaw tense, his eyes burning with a glare that tried to pierce through her confidence. Mariah felt that old fear gripping her stomach, but she straightened her posture. She refused to shrink again. Attorney Holmes stood with calm power. She presented every piece of evidence with clarity and detail. Photographs, dated entries, copies of messages Malcolm had sent in rage. Mariah watched the judge's face as each item was reviewed. She saw concern. She saw disbelief. She saw judgment forming in favor of her truth. When Malcolm was questioned, he tried to twist the narrative. He tried to paint Mariah as dramatic, disobedient, financially irresponsible. He tried to frame himself as a man under pressure. But the evidence spoke louder than his excuses. His words crumbled under the weight of the truth Mariah had carried alone for so long. When the judge finally spoke, the words felt like a shockwave moving through Mariah's chest. "Based on the extensive documentation and the testimony provided, I am granting Mariah Carter a full and immediate divorce. She will receive the majority of the retirement funds, the primary residence valued at $450,000, and 3 of the family vehicles. I am also approving the request for protective measures." Mariah's breath caught. Her chest tightened. Tears filled her eyes, but they were not from pain this time. They were from freedom. Malcolm exploded in anger. He rose from his seat, shouting accusations, pointing at her, yelling that she would regret this. Bailiffs moved forward quickly, restraining him before he could step closer. Mariah watched without trembling. She no longer feared him the way she once had. As she left the courtroom, Janelle wrapped her in a fierce embrace. "You did it, Mariah. You walked through the fire and came out stronger." Mariah held her tightly. "Thank you. I could not have done this alone." In the following weeks, Mariah moved back into the house she fought so hard to obtain. It felt empty at first, haunted by memories of fear and tension, but with each day she cleaned, rearranged, and redecorated, the house slowly transformed. It became hers again, filled with sunlight instead of shadows, peace instead of dread. Her healing was not immediate. Some nights she woke trembling, remembering Malcolm's voice, his anger, his control. But she also remembered the day she walked out, the day she stood in court, the day she finally said enough. Those memories began to overpower the others. A year passed. The seasons changed. Mariah built a life that felt entirely hers. She excelled at work, grew close with her cousins and friends, and created a home where laughter returned. She rediscovered her hobbies, her joy, her identity. During a family gathering, Janelle introduced her to a man named Derek Caldwell. Derek was calm, gentle in his manner, and thoughtful in every conversation. He worked as a project manager for an engineering firm and carried himself with a quiet confidence that never demanded control or obedience. He admired Mariah's intelligence and her foresight. He listened when she spoke. He asked for her opinions without dismissing them. Mariah approached the relationship slowly, cautious but hopeful. Derek never pushed her. He never raised his voice. He never questioned her independence or her decisions. He respected her boundaries and valued her strength. Over time, he became a source of comfort, a presence that made her feel safe in ways she had never experienced before. One evening, as they sat on her porch overlooking the quiet Shreveport neighborhood, Derek spoke softly. "Mariah, you have a way of thinking ahead, of preparing for the future in a way most people cannot. It is something I admire deeply. Not many people could have come through what you have, and still show this kind of grace." Mariah felt warmth fill her chest. For years, her foresight and discipline had been mocked, weaponized, and used against her. But now, in this new chapter of her life, those same qualities were cherished. She looked out at the fading sunlight, the sky streaked with orange and gold. For the first time in years, she felt whole. Her escape was no longer just a memory. It was the foundation of the life she had built, and the life she deserved. The life she had reclaimed with courage, resilience, and unshakable strength.